The story begins in 1837 in the fast-developing city of Paris, at a time when the country was not yet known as the fashion capital of the world. Unknown to all, a boy from the vineyard-clad hills of Anche, at Jura in eastern France, by the name of Louis Vuitton, came to Paris looking to make a name selling leather goods. Little did he know that in half a century, he would become the founder of a legacy of premium leather handbags sought after by people from all corners of the world. Louis Vuitton, a company that became world famous for their variety of exotic leather bags and goods, has quite the success story. Fashion designer and skilled craftsman Louis Vuitton himself is an awe-inspiring personality, having inspired generations of fashion designers that came after him. In an era where he had no inspiration to guide him in his career journey with leather and eventually fashion, he built an empire by himself from scratch. So you can imagine how revolutionary an achievement it was to establish a fashion-cum-luggage business in such an unpredictable social scenario. Want to know more? Stay with us. How did it all begin? Before the company made its bearings, Louis Vuitton himself was quite well known as a trunk maker, and it was in 1837 that the 16-year-old Vuitton reached Paris by foot and became an apprentice for Monsieur Marechal. This was a time when Paris had horse-drawn carriages instead of cars, and people relied mostly on boats and trains for lengthy periods of transportation. Things were much different that time, and as a result, goods and cargo were handled roughly. Traveling merchants had to hire skilled craftsmen to tie and secure their goods safely before the journey. And guess who filled in this urgent need of the day? Vuitton quickly became an eminent craftsman at the Parisian atelier of Monsieur Marechal. This was where his empire began, but with rough beginnings. Back then, Vuitton had to initially make customized design boxes. After gaining a handful of experience, he started making trunks according to the demands of his clients. He spent 17 years toiling on his craft and perfecting his skill before he finally decided to open his own workshop at 4 Rue Neuve-des-Capucines near the Place Vendôme. This is where things started to take off for the young man. Asnières, the legendary workshop. Just a few years later in 1859, Vuitton inaugurated the Asnières workshop, where his artisans started building rigid luggage trunks, cases and boxes, now dedicated to special orders at much higher prices. Vuitton carefully chose a location close to Paris so that quick deliveries could be made. The workshop at Asnières started with 20 employees. By 1900, there were nearly 100 people, and by 1914, the number had increased to 225. As of today, 300 people work in the workshop, carrying on the legacy of Louis Vuitton and still making some of the most sophisticated and elegant products in the world. The workshop was built with a striking resemblance to the Eiffel Tower, and the Vuitton family moved in as soon as the store opened. Many experts now believe that the decision to live close to the craftsman was a rather intelligent one. The early success of Louis Vuitton was guaranteed by yet another intelligent business decision to expand operations in the building stages. Since then, the original atelier at Asnières has been renovated across the recent decades with a lot of expansion work. The Vuitton family home, though, has been preserved and is now part of a private museum tour. The strategic location of Asnières, along the banks of the Seine River, enabled quick boat deliveries of raw materials, which included the wood they needed to make their famous trunks. Just across the river, Louis Vuitton opened his first store on Rue Neuve-des-Capucines. The workshop was also accessible via train, and back then, France had one of the first railway lines in the world, passing through Vuitton's hometown. Asnières was a stroke of brilliance, as it gave Vuitton the space to expand his workshop to the outskirts, but at the same time be very close to Paris. And the architecture of the workshop was way ahead of its time as well. Built out of steel beams way back in 1854, you can understand how it might resemble the Eiffel Tower that was completed 33 years later. Vuitton's first atelier was bright and airy, which was very much unlike the dark and humid workshops in Paris at that time. This is why Asnières came to be recognized as the heart of Louis Vuitton's career, carrying the heritage of having crafted some of the most distinguished leather creations in the world. The revolutionary lock. In 1886, Georges Vuitton, Louis' son, revolutionized the world of luggage yet again, building in the footsteps of his father.
But I thought a king could do whatever he wants. territory.
While others search for what they can take, a true king searches for what he can give.
Vuitton Jr. changed the whole scenario of luggage locks with an innovative closing system that transformed the travel trunks of that time into secure treasure chests. In 1886, the father and son duo adopted a single lock system with 2 spring buckles, which after a few years of polishing and development became a patent. And it was so effective that Vuitton even challenged Harry Houdini, the great American escape artist, in a public newspaper to escape from a Vuitton box and lock. Although Houdini didn't respond to the challenge, the lock's effectiveness is unquestionable. Do you know it is still used even today? This was a time when robbery was at large in Europe, and with the revolutionary locking system, Vuitton grew the attention of a lot of people. Then came their famous tumbler lock in the 1900s, when travelers from all across the world were carrying their essentials inside wardrobes and flat trunks, which unfortunately started attracting the wrong kind of attention. As a result, Louis Vuitton stepped in to answer a need once again by enabling his clients to protect their goods by hiding it inside their travel pieces. Controversial challenges. By the first quarter of the 20th century, Louis Vuitton gained the attention of famous French fashion designer and businesswoman Coco Chanel. The world had progressed, and this was 1925 when she requested Vuitton to produce their iconic domed handbag, which was branded as Squire back then. 30 years later, though, that same bag was renamed Alma. But this collaboration between Chanel and Louis Vuitton was quite phenomenal. It led to the creation of the Louis Vuitton Speedy and the Keepall, which were famous models among other compact bags in the 1930s. Sadly, a few years later in 1936, Georges Vuitton passed away. The company was taken over by Gaston Louis Vuitton, Georges' eldest son, who did his best to steer the brand through difficult times of war, turmoil, and inflation during the World War. At such a time, Vuitton managed to maintain brand relevance and innovation. However, war is heavy on everyone, and despite the many efforts of Gaston, the difficult times tainted the brand, like many other fashion brands. But did you know an interesting fact? As it turns out, members of the Vuitton family supported the Vichy regime under Marshal Philippe Pétain during the Nazi era. They made their money from business deals with the Germans during World War II. This was talked about in detail in a book titled Louis Vuitton, written by French author Stéphanie Bonvicini. Do you know that Bonvicini once said in an interview that when she asked for details of Louis Vuitton's wartime activities, the company told her that documents from the years between 1930 and 1945 had been destroyed in a fire? What do you think? Are they telling the truth? Or is Louis Vuitton hiding dark secrets from the World War II Nazi era in German-occupied France? Let us know in the comments below. By the time this became public, Louis Vuitton was already under the ownership of Mode Hennessy Louis Vuitton, popularly known as LVMH. According to The Guardian, an LVMH spokesperson once told in an interview with the French satirical magazine Le Canard Enchaîné that they don't deny the facts, but that Bonvicini has greatly exaggerated the details. The spokesperson from LVMH said, "This is ancient history. The book covers a period when it was family-run and long before it became part of LVMH. We are diverse, tolerant, and all the things a modern company should be." Still here? Thanks for sticking with us. On the Forbes 2017 list of the most valuable brands in the world, Louis Vuitton comes under 20 behind brands like Apple and Google, Coca-Cola, Nike, and Verizon, and is the most valuable fashion brand on the list. Today, it's the most valuable luxury brand in the world, and its aviation is over $30 billion. What do you think about Louis Vuitton? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you like and share it with your family and friends. Also subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification icon so that you do not miss any updates from our channel. Thanks for watching.